Welcome back to Munro Live. I'm Carl, and we're here at Munro Associates. And there's an open question. What do we actually do? Well, we do product benchmarking. Now that can be for vehicles, but there's many other products that we've also worked on. We do lean design. Now that is both for the actual product design, but also for the manufacturing process. How do we put together what we have designed? And the whole goal is to try and be as efficient as possible and to save as much money as possible. So sometimes our customers will give us their product and they will ask us to review their own design, give them some ideas. Sometimes our customers want to see a competitor's product and they'll look at many different options and try and say, across this, what are the best practices? What can we learn? How can we use this in our own design? We provide this information, we provide this service for our customers anywhere they are at. So whether they want their own designs, whether they want a new design, whether they're able to actually design something new. Now here's a problem. By the time they get to cost savings, lots of times they have already designed a product. They may already be building a product and they want to save money on it. That is the worst time to try and save money. Once that design is set, once the tools are made for creating that design, most all of your costs are already fixed. There's very little you can do at that stage unless you can redesign. Now, with this, sometimes we are actually given vehicles that we're not going to tear apart. These vehicles, they just want us to give them information on or give our opinion on. So that is how we get a lot of our media vehicles that we will review on Munro Live. Now, unfortunately, we cannot tear into these vehicles. I cannot show you some intricate little point that is hidden somewhere that is providing a benefit to you that you may not know. But we can get an overview and an overall look. So today we're going to be looking at the Genesis GV60. Again, my focus is mostly on the interiors, but we're going to talk about some of the exterior as well. Now in our videos, you'll often see us talk about gaps. And many people will look at all of the features and try and see how things are lining up, whether or not a gap is consistent, if it's too large. Why does a gap matter? Well, this is the outer surface, but where is this component attached? It is attached somewhere deeper in the vehicle. This is where you would see the symptom of the problem. If you have an inconsistent gap, if you have panels that are touching or misaligned, you'll see it there. But the problem is actually somewhere else. So even though we cannot tear apart these display vehicles, these media vehicles, by looking at all those gaps, we get an indication of, is there an actual problem in the build process for this vehicle? If we can identify those areas, we can say, look, you want to look at something here. You want to look at how that front end is coming together, how those panels are installing. Where are your four-way locators? Where are your two-way locators? What is the actual sequence of installing it? Because we saw an issue with some sort of a panel gap. So for this vehicle, this is the GV60, which is basically pretty close to its price point too, between $60,000 and $70,000. Now recently we looked at a Nissan, and that Nissan had a price point of $58,000. I was disappointed with the Nissan, especially from the interior. They had a few very nice features, but the rest of the product was very, very basic. I felt that that Nissan was a very nice $45,000 car that they were selling for $60,000. This one being $60,000 to $70,000, when I look at some of these interior features, I see a lot more luxury throughout more components. Now again, I deal with costing. So I look at the costs that the manufacturers put into a vehicle that are completely hidden, that the customer will never see. Those are the costs that I really, really want to fight. That is where I want to try and save as much money as possible. But the features that the customer sees, the features that the customer touches, if I'm selling a premium vehicle, I expect to have that premium level of quality and that premium feature content. At $60,000 to $70,000 for this vehicle, I think that it's giving away quite a lot for that price point for an electric vehicle with this type of interior. But let's continue looking at the exterior. I hate the color. That's my own personal opinion. Others like it. But ignoring the color, let's just look at the body panels themselves. If you sightline down the side of the vehicle, there are some curves, but this is a very, very smooth vehicle. There's not a lot that's really sticking out in the ways of trim. It is pretty much all blended into the body. I mean, just looking at the way the headlights blend in, the way the side of the vehicle, everything blends into the rear wheel wells. It's a very, very smooth vehicle. Now, I would consider that Tesla-like. I mean, even looking at the hood, the way the hood goes all the way over to the edge, you end up with fewer body panels, fewer pieces of trim. So there are some benefits to be had there. The gray fender flares, fender trim, and then rolling across the bottom of the rocker. I don't really like that as a feature. I don't like the breakup, the gray on the blue body panel. I think that you're enhancing and pointing out, look, I'm a separate part. I am not integrated, I'm not smooth. So I really don't like the gray. And I had that same type of an issue on the Honda Ioniq, which honestly, I do believe this is similar to the same platform, just in the Genesis version. So there are some carryover design features between the Honda Ioniq that we tore down and this. So let's look at the door panel. Now, unfortunately, you cannot feel this through the camera, but this top roll is very, very soft. It's not a hard surface. There's a very, very light foam underneath this material. I think that it's very, very comfortable to the occupant to have something like this. Me being tall, my arm does not fit on the armrest. My arm sits on the top roll, and I think that's quite nice. This is an Alcantara material. I don't really want to say that because it's like saying Kleenex. Alcantara is a brand name. It's an artificial suede. This may not actually be from Alcantara. This might be from one of the other competitors. Now, this is a little rougher of a suede texture than what we've seen in other vehicles. And this carries over to the B pillars and also to the headliner as well. So I question whether or not this is a high-end suede, artificial suede, but it's still quite nice. Still gives you that nice soft feel without being hard and plasticky. Looking at this armrest, they have created a feature that basically floats away from the door panel. Normally we're used to seeing an armrest sitting on top of a molded door panel and it all just blends in. But this is all separated. Now that creates a big problem if you're actually designing this part and trying to build this part because of A surface. That A surface ends up having to wrap around. So trying to make a nice class A here, here, and here, you add a lot of difficulty by having this thing floating out away from the door. This in-mold decoration, so this is a plastic part, injection molded, but they have an in-mold decoration that is applied to that plastic when they mold it. It's a great way of having a very, very nice surface, but also changeable surface. So between different trim levels, all I have to do is change the film and I can get a different look. We talk about a lot of vehicles trying to get rid of buttons, actual physical buttons. They have them here, but look at the way they stylized these buttons. Now again, this type of a feature is all just in the injection mold. So they could have built a mold that was completely smooth and flat, or they could have dug in this texture. For manufacturing the finished component, there's no additional cost if they get that into the texture of the tool, but there is some decoration on here. I don't know if this is going to be painted, if it's going to be laser cut or an in-mold film. But again, all of that leads to it being more of a premium vehicle. They're adding money into their switch bank. It's not just a matte black plastic. Looking at the seat. So we see the diamond pattern. Now, I know a lot of people in aftermarket seats who are complaining about the diamonds because it seems like everyone on their custom car, their hot rod, they want that sewn diamond pattern. But look, this is not really a sewn diamond pattern. The perforated patterns are CNC, which is computer controlled, punched into this type of vinyl. This is not a sewn seam. This is probably some sort of an embossing, which is giving them that look. The alignment of this type of pattern on the flat stock material, the sewing tolerances, that is all a headache. So when I look at this, I see extra money, extra money, extra money. The time it takes to perforate all of these diamonds, knowing that it's not just something that's coming out of a long roll, that is time consuming. Looking at the center console, now when we tore down the Honda Ioniq, we were really complaining about the complexity of building that center console. It was honestly a nightmare. All the different components, all of the different fasteners, everything that was really hidden to the customer, you really did not get a benefit of it. Now, when we looked at the Nissan had a upper portion of the console that would translate back and forth, which also had air vents in the back of it. In order to do that, they had to have the mechanism built into the lower console to allow it to translate back and forth, and they had to have an air duct that would allow one to pass over the other and still allow the airflow into the upper portion. This center console, even though this is a much more premium vehicle, has a very nice look. It is also a floating console. There is less really to this, other than some of the high-end features that they have in here. So for my build assembly, I assume that this would be better. Now, let's look at this one other way. When we were talking about that Nissan, I was mentioning how everything that was hidden in the lower section of the console, the air duct passed through, the mechanism allowing that upper portion to be sliding back and forth, you lost any type of a storage bin. It was very shallow underneath the armrest. This has a nice large pocket, kind of a pass-through to the front of the vehicle in that lower center console. So think about this. You're paying for a mechanism that allows that armrest to move back and forth, and also has to have some sort of an air path in order to bring the air ducts up into the upper portion. This, you're paying for a hole, which gives you the benefit of having storage. So in the Nissan, you're paying for a mechanism that is completely hidden. You're paying for all of the required ductwork to get that air path up. This, you actually get a premium feature by having that storage, but basically you're paying for a hole. There's a lot of savings that can be had as long as you plan what is the benefit to the customer. Honestly, in that Nissan, I did not really see the benefit, paying that extra money to have that type of feature. Here, I look at this storage as being a benefit. So I am getting this type of a benefit, but it's a lower cost for the manufacturing. Now, the crystal ball, it's kind of an interesting little feature. We talked about the shift controller on the Mercedes and the little crystal connection that they have there. This one is a little different. It presents itself to you as a knob when you turn on the vehicle. Now, here's a debate. What is the durability of the motor and the mechanism that flips and presents this to me? Is it just one more thing that can possibly break that is going to cost me money down the road? There is a question there. Honestly, I think more and more of our electronic features are lasting longer and longer. I think that they're starting to surprise us on the durability. I think the fears of some of these things breaking, which they're a horror story when you hear them. Some simple little feature breaks and it disables your entire vehicle. But I think that those stories are starting to become more anecdotal. And I think from reliability wise, this stuff is much better than it used to be. I remember there was one vehicle several years ago, a decade now, they had a problem with their door handles and almost every one of their door handles broke. It just became a common feature across that vehicle. I think we're seeing less and less things like that now. Now, looking at this instrument panel, we have a wrapped instrument panel. Now, this is an actual cut and sew. It's not a faux seam, so it is a wrapped material going all the way forward. I've worked on wrapped IPs, instrument panels, for many, many years. So the first thing that I look for is evidence of the airbag breakthrough line. And I was out in the sun yesterday trying to see where that seam was. I couldn't see it. It's hidden very, very well. So There's a possibility that they have found a self-tearing material that they don't have to weaken, or whichever method that they're using for weakening this skin to allow the airbag to blow through is just a very good quality. Well, that could be laser scoring, rotary knife scoring. I think that they've done a very, very good job. Now, even though this is a cut and sew, looking at the pattern, it is very, very simple. It's very, very clean. There is the possibility of having this be an automated process because of how clean and simple this is. Glove boxes. Now, in one of my previous vehicles, I had an issue. I went to a dealership to have an oil change done, and the salesman came in and says, well, here's your air filter, and as you can see, it's really doing its job. And he goes into this spiel about having me replace my air filter. Well, to access the air filter, you had access through the glove box. As I was leaving, I looked at my glove box, and I hit the button to open the glove box, and it slammed down and broke. They had broke the drive cables while they were changing my air filter. Now, I had to go back into the dealership on a Saturday to get them to fix it for me. It took 4 hours. And in that 4 hours, I saw that salesman come in and give that exact same spiel at least 20 times. So that was the glove box that would fold down. So it had a complete bin that would travel with the door. This one is an actual drawer. So what are we paying for here? We have an injection molded bin with a door attached to it. We have a handle that you can see has a latch mechanism on the sides. All of those same features are in that glove box that drops down. But then it has some sort of a rail that allows it to slide in and out of the instrument panel. I like this, and in all honesty, other than the rail, I don't see this as being more complicated than a regular hinged glove box door. Especially that glove box door that they broke for me, because it had dampers, it had motors and drive cables to allow it to open down slowly. So this is manual. It's not going to slam down, but I think that gives more of a premium look and feel. When we had the video on the BMW, I was kind of making a point that it was a high-end luxury vehicle. And I asked the question, where does the owner of the vehicle sit? Is the owner driving the vehicle, or is the owner sitting in the back in comfort? And that had a really interesting setup to provide a footrest, recline, large video screen pulled down. But this has a nice feature as well. So if I am in the back seat and I want a little bit more comfort, only on the passenger side, I have my own set of seat controls that I can move the seat back and forth. So I can move the seat out of the way to give myself more comfort. Looking at a center seat occupant, let's look at the headrests. Now, I've worked with several vehicle manufacturers who've debated how high a center seat headrest can be to allow visibility for the front driver. So what is in your way coming through that rear view mirror? This headrest is flush with the top of the back of the seat, but that headrest is adjustable. So if there is an occupant here, that occupant's head, of course, is in the way of the rear view mirror, but this is adjustable up to give them a little bit more comfort and safety. Now, we talked about that floating armrest on the front door, but you'll notice the armrests on the rear door also have the cup holder built into the front portion of that armrest. It's an interesting feature. Again, you have to have a surface going all the way around the edge, but it clears up that center console. So that is helping to provide the opening in the center console. I don't have a cup holder mechanism that is deploying. I don't have to eat up that space with the armrest by providing that type of a cup holder. So I like putting it in the door like that. I like how fast that opened. Look at the amount of lighting that we have. Very bright, very, very white light. So that's nice, of course, if you're trying to use this in the dark or finding things if you have a bunch of stuff loaded in here. Looking at the floor itself. Load floors are very common. We see them all the time. So fold up, we have access to our storage. But what's the other problem? I have something in here and I can't really take it out, or it's a bunch of little things. I still need to get this open for something. So I'm lifting this up, lifting up whatever's on the load floor just to try and get enough room to get whatever I need. So this has a smaller folding section that will go in the opposite direction. So I can still have something large in here. And if I know that, and anything that I need to get to quickly or easily, I can have right here. Now that hinge goes farther back than this front hinge. So now we have two opposing hinge directions. So I can't flip them both at the same time, but you shouldn't need to. Looking at this price point, looking at all of the features that they give the customer, I'm really impressed. I can see the value in all of the trim areas. I can see that the customer is getting what they paid for from a comfort and feature aspect. Now, I will leave that to others to determine for performance, for range, whether you feel that you're getting the value there. But when I look at this, in general, it is very impressive to me. At that price point, the overall vehicle size, the amount of creature comforts, the amount of trim and detail, I think that it is a very good value for what you would be paying for. Now, I have not torn down this vehicle, but I would be interested to find out exactly how much money they're putting into all those little features. If I could tear it down like we have done for the Hyundai Ioniq, the Rivian, I enjoy the work that we do. And I enjoy being able to see those dollars and all of those little features, all those little decisions that you may never be able to notice as a customer, that even the OEMs honestly forget that they have had put in their designs. Being able to find that in the minute detail, in all of those hidden structural details in a vehicle, this is a passion for me. I really, really enjoy it, which may actually be a psychosis, but I really enjoy it. So I hope you've enjoyed looking over this vehicle and noticing from my eye the things that really stand out to me, how we see value, how we see cost. And if you have enjoyed, please subscribe to Munro Live and stay tuned for future videos. Have a good day. Having said that, however, this is dumb. It's nice to have this frunk with this nice clean lid, looks substantial. However, the depth of this storage bin, this is a waste. How much benefit am I getting from this feature? How much money did I pay for this feature to get just this amount of benefit? There's a lot of parts in there. The hinge mechanism, the lid mechanism, the bin itself, the multi-component bin, all of these different pieces that are then being assembled together, installed in the vehicle. I am paying all of that money and all that labor for something that is only giving me this much of a benefit. That is dumb. This feature, as it is designed, in my mind, is not worth its own cost.